welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about the untold truth about being a director. When one imagines a director, we all think captain of the ship, which means working with stars, grand premieres, calling action and cut and sitting in that fantastic director chair that we see on set. Today, I'm going to take you through some of the untold truths about being a director. So let's begin. Picture this. You're a kid mesmerized by cinema, or you've seen a movie which really inspires you, you're excited about it. Weekends goes on movie marathons and hang out with friends and watching that cool movie that just got released and just getting fascinated by this whole world of cinema and cannot imagine how time passes so quickly, like a blink of a minute, where you're completely lost in this entire world that has been created. And then something happens, right? You hear an interview of a popular director, or you land up on a movie set, or you see a theater, and suddenly this thing strikes you that you want to be a filmmaker, you want to be a director. With me, I landed up in a movie set, looking around the amazing energy which was there, and some of the most creative people that I've ever met in my life working together. The magic of the set was so amazing. The light, the camera rolling, and the people synchronized and trying to capture that moment, that single moment of magic, which we call as a scene. That's what inspired me, and I'm sure something like this happened, and then you're inspired to be a filmmaker. Great, first step done. But then comes the thoughts. Is it a stable career? It's a competitive field. Would I be able to make it? Do I have the skills to become a director? What if I fail? You spend some time pondering over it, and despite of hundreds of people and probably every other family member telling you that it's such a great bad idea, and everyone saying that it's not practical, some of us take that leap, right? And we say, okay, I'm going to be a filmmaker, I'm going to do this, and we continue to pursue that particular dream. And we, first thing what most of us do, we enroll into a film school. Let me tell you before we go ahead, film schools in general, it's my opinion, I have attended film schools, but my biggest learning has been on set. I think even while during film school, within the first week, I took up my handicap and started shooting, keep leveling up one after the other. And I think what on set teaches you cannot be taught through books. When you are on set, when you are actually executing it yourself and taking the camera and shooting. I think my first short film was with my mom, my girlfriend, and my dog. I think once you go through that experience of shooting it and putting it together and editing it and all of that, what you learn is absolutely tremendous. You need to do all this, you need to go through that entire process of reading books, reading stories, watching films, and part of that entire journey of learning the craft. And every step is bringing you closer to your dream, right? So it is extremely important that you go through that journey. And this is how you're creating your unique voice, right? Because ultimately what is a director? And director is someone who has a unique perspective or a unique way of looking at the world and wants to tell a story in his own perspective, which is what primarily what we directors do, right? And so every step is closer to your dream. But then comes the biggest problem once you've learned the craft, once you've understood how the craft works, and then comes the biggest problem, which is you. I think this is very common, not just for directors, but most creative people. The biggest problem is you, because you often get into creative blocks, right? Whether it is not getting an inspiration, everything starts from having a product, and how do you go about it? There will be a lot of confusion at the beginning, and this is something that every director has to overcome, and you go through that. And once you've gone through that confusion, you're starting to realize, okay, you need a script, and you sit down to write, and you spend days on a single page, and nothing is moving forward, and nothing is up to your satisfaction. Probably days of creative block, you start managing to write something that you like. Understand this, guys. If you have an idea, it doesn't mean jack, right? Because everybody, the guy who's walking in the street right now has an idea. An idea is no good if you're not able to make it a product, if you're not able to convert that into a script in our world. right? If it is not a script, if it is not a product, there is nothing to make out of, right? You can have an idea, you can have brilliant ideas, but it's of no use because everybody has ideas. If you're a filmmaker, you should be able to convert that idea into a story, into some sort of a script which you can execute into a film, right? So that's the starting point, and somehow, after all that creative blocks, and after, you know, spending days of people constantly telling you what a bad decision that you've taken going to film school, and have you done it yet? Oh, you learned filmmaking. Where can I see your work? And your bill starts piling up if you're an independent person and not taking money from your dad or family. Everybody coming and asking you, have you done anything yet? And oh, is it seriously a business? Every family member coming and telling you that probably you should think about an alternate career. Going through all that, and somehow you manage to write a script and create your product or products. In my case, I wrote a lot of scripts, and I went on a writing spree, and went into making a lot of short films for learning, which really helped me to understand what direction is and understand technically how to go about executing. How do you interact with an actor? So I went and learned acting because I wanted to communicate to them in their language, right? And I learned editing and music and sound design so that I could go about communicating to the technicians, because as a director you don't do it yourself, right? You need to work with team members. You need to tell them what you are thinking about. If you don't speak their language, they would never probably won't get it in terms of how you are looking at it. So you should be able to communicate that better. So I went about learning acting and editing and sound, and I used to do all these short films which I used to shoot with my handycam and for my learning purposes, and I used to do the entire thing from starting to shooting to producing to editing to sound and music and everything, which gave me a tremendous understanding of how the whole thing works. And this also kind of shaped me to write long form scripts and to become a feature film director. Guys, we need to be a sponge, right? Life experiences, observations, things that you learn, everything sort of helps you tell better stories, and to have that perspective and viewpoint and point of views about every director needs to have a point of view, and as a matter of fact every creative individual needs to have a point of view. If he doesn't have a point of view, he probably is not a creative individual, right? Especially directors needs to have a very strong point of view, a creative point of view as well. So which means you need to be like a sponge and take all these experiences, whether good or bad, during this entire process of trying to come up with this first product or first script. And rather you should write several scripts, and some of them might be good, some of them might be bad, some of them would get better over the years because you write and rewrite. Like they always say scripts is not about writing, it's about rewriting, and no matter how many times you rewrite, it always gets better and better. I should probably bring in the part where if there are directors who are not writers, in that scenario it's still the same. The only difference is that if you are not a writer, you are not able to write a script, you find writers. You need to find a writer or a product or a script that you are able to visualize and bring that writer on board so that you have a product to start pitching. And you need to have a very clear, thorough understanding, page by page understanding of what the character is, how the film flows and everything. So there is a lot of, in spite of the fact that you are not writing a script, you should still have a very, very clear end-to-end understanding of how the film will flow and what the characters are and why they are and what their motivations are, right? And this is extremely important. So once you've gone through and successfully overcome yourself and learned to make a product, you've learned the craft, you've learned to overcome yourself and understood the craft of filmmaking, and then you created a product, whether it is a short or a feature or whatever. To make any vision to come to reality, you need funding. And funding is such a thing that we all struggle to get it, whether it is for a short film or whether it is a feature-length film, whether it is a web series. To find an investor to bank on your creative vision, right, and to bank on you, because they're not actually let me tell you this, guys, because if you want somebody to spend hard cash on your script, right, they need to like completely be sold on the idea, right? And more importantly, they need to be sold on you. They need to believe in you. You need to be responsible. They need to find you responsible enough with the money to be able to execute something and to be able to do justice to the film. and especially when as a newcomer with absolutely no reel to show, probably you might have a shot from your film school which you could show, that could work, but even otherwise it's largely about you and your ability to convince another person that you have the capability to lead. It's also about leadership, right? You need to have that leadership and you need to portray that leadership, that you're able to lead a team and to achieve this creative vision, to make a film on their money and to be able to complete it and to realize that. And that's a huge responsibility that one has, and you should be able to convince one person to invest in you, invest in your dream and invest in your vision, which is not easy, right? And trust me, not every pitch is successful. You need to be ready for to make rejection as your friend. We need to take it with a pinch of salt, because you win some, you lose some, and also they don't align with your creative vision, which means probably you shouldn't be working with them anyway. What is worse than getting a funder or getting a producer or an investor into your dream is where they say yes, they come on board and then later pull the plug, and which is very painful, guys, because you must have invested. There have been times in my life where I have to carry it through. I had to put my own funds to keep the production running. There has been instances where you have to go on a limb. It can get extremely messy and extremely difficult for you when they back out. So in that sense, to find an investor who completely believes in you and your vision should be the person that you should be working with, and not someone who's not really game for it. So if they reject you, you should take it with a pinch of salt and say, okay, probably this guy didn't sync with my creative vision, and then move on to finding that right person. And I think it's always about finding the right people, isn't it? And that comes to the next part. How you found funding. Somehow you managed to find funding, which is a humongous task and if you are lucky enough, you've worked hard, you're able to do that. Then comes the next problem, which is to finding right people. Finding the right people. Okay, so if you think you have the money, you have a great script, your problems are done, and now everything is easy, hell no. Because finding the right people, in my opinion, is a huge task. Okay. Yes, you can hire people randomly out of looking at some reels. It took a while for me to learn, and I also realized over the years is that if you don't have the right people, no matter how hard you try, how great your vision is, how great your script is, you still won't be able to achieve your vision. You won't be able to create a product which is closer to your vision, right? It will be still, there is going to be a large gap. Not all films that you would make will be 100% your vision, because sometimes things get added on, reality starts coming in. But the biggest factor which influences your journey or your production or your film or your product would be the people that you collaborate with. Just having skill, or somebody who's a good DOP or a good editor or a good sound person or a good costume or art person, does not mean that they will do great work with you. They need to sync with you, right? It's about a collaborative effort. It's a teamwork, and like all teams, there needs to be a fantastic communication. It's important to understand the vision and the portrayal of that vision and the way you see every single shot and every single frame, and it needs to be understood in such depth. And they should also fight. See, the thing is, don't imagine that having sync and finding the right creative people to work with you does not mean that you will not fight with them. The creative teams always challenge each other. There will be creative disagreements, there will be discussions and disagreements and arguments, but that's absolutely fine. But they should be able to take your vision and take it to the next level. The DOP should be able to give you better than what you had imagined. The sound should be better than what you had imagined. The costume should be better than what you had imagined. They should be able to give you more options and to think bigger and think larger than what you imagined. It cannot be less. It should be bigger than what you had imagined, right? I think in simpler words, they need to be your friends. If they're not your friends, find it difficult to get a good production out, to get a good output from what you're setting out to do. And obviously you have responsibilities to the investor as well. There's a lot of problems that comes with that way. So how do you find right people? It takes years, honestly speaking, to find a good set of people. Again, coming back to one of the ways you find good people is to start working on set, right? So when you shoot with people, when I was doing short films, I worked with the DOP. We still work together. I still work with some of the editors that I've used at that time. I worked in various capacities during my learning processes, where I was as an assistant director, whether I worked in art direction, whether I worked in production. The reason to do that during my learning process was I was able to meet various people, right? And I meet and I connect and I make friends with them, and I realize, okay, you know what, he and me think alike, or brother, he will be able to add value to how I'm seeing things, and probably this is one guy that I want to collaborate with. So it takes years, and yes, you could look at the directory or take references from people and call up and try your luck. Finding the right people is extremely important, and sometimes again some people come in a lack of sync and they leave midway because you guys don't see eye to eye on certain things. And every time you change one person, or especially the HODs, the head of departments in a film set, the things change. The way the production is, the output itself changes, right? And then you somehow manage to find right people, and then starts casting. You could just call for a casting agency or a casting director to start sending you profiles and look at it, and then just say, okay, you know what, the audition looks great. You could do that. If you want an established face or an established actor, of course it's a little different. The particular actor should be open to working with a newcomer director, right? If they are open to it first, then they should be open to working with you, because they know that you're a newcomer, you have not done anything before, or even if it is a short, they should be convinced that you have the vision and you are able to execute. It's completely depending on your ability to convince the actor that you have the capability to achieve what you're saying. Yes, you could do casting auditions and just take a look at it, or doing workshops. You can pick absolutely new person. The key important thing is the character, and you cannot be starstruck either, because it is not important that the actor is big or not. What is important is that your character, do they resonate, does the character resonate with them? And do they resonate with the character, and are they able to bring life to that particular character, and are they able to portray that character in the best of their ability, which is convincing for you in the way that you had imagined it or when you have written it. So what is important is, do they relate to the character? Can they become the character? It's not driven by whether they are a big star or not. I think one of the biggest problem in Bollywood is that it's so driven by star value and not necessarily what the character demands, and we see it, and a lot of films don't work because for the same reason. Yeah, somehow you manage to convince some good actors who fit your character, which is not at all an easy task, but you somehow managed to do that, right? What comes next? Another challenge that you will face is, okay, you have the actors, you have the technicians, you have the funding, but if one is available, the other is not. Fitting them into a particular schedule, especially with established actors, the dates, the weather, the availability of technicians, oftentimes it also pushes you to make some tough decisions, where you'll have to make a decision not to work with somebody, or to change your plans and take some tough calls on it. One of the important things that I've learned in my life is that it requires tremendous meticulous planning to have a smooth shoot, to get the output or the vision that you have in the way that you like to have it, because no matter how great your script is or how great your thoughts are, it would never fall in place, because you never be able to execute it or complete what all you need, all the shots that you need and all of that. So it's extremely important. Shooting outdoor has its own challenges. Shooting on locations have its own challenges. Permissions, there's a lot of production detail that goes in, and when you work with certain aspects, you have to get your government permissions, the BMC permissions if you're shooting in Bombay, and if it is another country, they have their own set of paperwork, which requires tremendous amount of documentation and preparation and submissions, and then of course the due time that it takes for you to get it. So this would be another, and again, we are still talking about schedule problems, right? So by the time you get that, when your actors and technicians are available, then the permissions are not available. So, and if the permissions are available, then the weather is not right, and then the equipments are not available. The whole mix of getting all of this together would be the next big challenge that you have, and somehow you manage to get that too, right? You overcome that challenge as well. Once you've overcome that challenge, then comes that you get onto set, you start production, you start the shoot, and then comes the next big problem, which is managing egos. Filmmaking is a teamwork, right? And it is bound to happen that whenever you work in teams with people specialized in their own particular skill, the egos are running high, and everybody thinks that they are best at their job, and which they are. But what happens is, these egos, till the time it does not affect your creative output. What is objective here, right? To keep the production flowing smoothly to the best of the ability, so that you get what you want. So yes, actors have their ego, producers have their ego, technicians have their ego. So to find that fine balance, and as a leader, it's also important to get everybody to come into that particular mindset that it's a story, it's the idea, it's the execution that's bigger than anybody else, right? It's not the individual, it's the project, it's a product that we are trying to achieve, which is bigger than everyone else. And to get them to believe in that and to come into that creative space and to creative understanding and to give them their best, and avoid conflicts on the way is by itself a big task, and sometimes gets difficult, sometimes it does disrupts here and there, but that is part and parcel of the job which you'll have to do. It requires a bit of diplomacy. We all have egos, and everybody should feel valued on set. Everybody should feel that their inputs are taken, and I've noticed there's a lot of people, even the spot boys have some of the best ideas sometimes, and there's nothing wrong in listening to them. And as a director, you should listen to everybody on set, because they all bring in a certain, of course, ultimately it's your vision and you need to decide how it should follow through, but ultimately there's absolutely nothing wrong in listening to it, right? Sometimes justified and required needs, but the demands are something that you have to listen to almost every day. To give you an example, like the art director could come and say, listen, I would need this to set up here, but wasn't this discussed earlier? Didn't you know the script? Yeah, but then when I came on set and now I feel that I need to erect an entire thing, for that I would require so and so, another demand which goes to production, of course, but as a director you'll have to step in and figure out a solution as well, because the producer would say, no, listen, this was not factored, and how do you go about building an entire thing? Or it could be a costume, no, because the fitting doesn't work anymore and we'll have to restitch it will take another day, or these kind of challenges could keep coming up all throughout the shooting. There was an experiment where there was a group of mice, lab rats rather, were asked to follow a riddle. Okay, and for some reason the one right at the front dies. Okay, so they put another rat and it was asked to follow a riddle and navigate the way from A to B, and the lab rat at the front always dies, right? And it was learned that the reason for the lab rats to die was because the rat right at the front was under stress, because it was making decisions. Okay, whether it should turn right or it should take left or should it go straight. So these decisions were so stressful that the rats used to die. The lab mouse, the lab rats used to die, right? So as a director, that would be the best analogy, because it is stressful. Why? Because every second of the day you are making decisions. One would come and ask, would you like this blue, or would you like a darker blue, or would you like a peacock blue? One would come and ask you, okay, do you want this to be a little more taller, or do you want it to be built thicker? Do you want the material to be changed? The actor would ask you, okay, do you want me to, how do you want me to do it? Do you want me to smile a little more, a little less, or little with a, twinkle in the eye? And every moment of the day you're making decision in terms of how everything on the frame looks like, this is something you're doing for the entire shoot days, right? If we are talking about a feature length film, we are talking about doing that for 50-60 days, and prior to that in pre-production for probably months together, and even after that during editing and post process, the entire process of the post production, you are doing that as well in terms of deciding which shot to come where. So this is part and parcel of a director's life, which is difficult, and these demands that comes to you have to participate in it, and cannot just say that's a production problem, because ultimately producer would say that why was not planned, and every set, every location will demand for newer things and newer demands to come from people, and that is something that you'll have to factor in, right? Okay, so now you've somehow managed to handle these demands as well. It's a tightrope. Sometimes you have to do compromises, right? Where you say, okay, if I don't give you that, you're not able to provide that. Okay, so probably I'll have to think of a different way to achieve this. Such compromises, and sometimes it's not a bad thing, because sometimes when they say necessity is the father of invention, and sometimes just because something is not there, you start innovating, you start thinking of better ways to do it, and sometimes the output is even greater, right? So somehow you manage to handle that demands, get people to do it, which is also extremely problematic. And a lot of I've seen people get bogged down by pressure, production shoots getting shut off, and projects stopped midway because it's not handled properly. I've seen various people not able to handle such a stressful situation, and production literally coming to a standstill. As a director, you need to manage that and get things going, and just not stop and keep rolling, no matter what it takes for the film to move forward, right? And somehow you manage to complete the shoot. There is a lot more challenges that you face as an individual, because while you're making decisions, and like I said, you have to take decisions every second of the day, you're constantly also self-critiquing yourself, right? You don't know, are you doing the right thing? Is it going to turn out right? And you'll have to have complete faith in yourself and your vision, and just keep moving forward, and that's the only way to go about it. Once all this is done, you have to ensure that the footage is secure and it reaches to the post house, and then the next challenge starts, which is the post-production woes, if I may call it that. Post-production is where everything that you have shot starts becoming a film. Right? And the whole editing process and the coloring process, when I say coloring, I mean color grading, making it look better than how it is shot, the sound, the music, again, decisions throughout, managing schedules, managing egos, managing budgets, because the producer is going to come back and tell you, listen, this is what the budget is, this is how much we have to stay in, this is the number of hours that you have. And as a director, you'll have to probably go out, and I do that most of the time. I sit and, while there is an editor, I still have to sit and edit it myself, and things that I learned editing. So it helps me to edit certain parts of it in the way that I see it if the editor does not get it. And I do this on most of the projects that I do. Similarly with music, you have to sit down with the music director and get that right emotion out. Getting that right emotion is not a beautifully shot visual still would not affect positively or in the way it's supposed to be emotionally to a person, just because it's with not the right kind of music or right kind of sound, right? Because it's extremely important. Every single aspect of filmmaking is extremely important. Nothing can be discounted at all. And you sit through those, we go through the same set of challenges that we have, and to get the whole film completed, and while editing we kind of realize, oh damn, And every director thinks that, oh, I could have taken one more shot like this. I could have shot this way. I could have shot that way. But most often, then I mean, yeah, maybe for a few projects, but generally you don't have the liberty to go back and shoot another day. So what you've got is what you've got, because if you're going back, shoot another day means again you have to go through from the beginning, getting the actors' dates, getting the location, getting the permission, the funding needs to be there and all of that. So there is no option of going back. So whatever you have shot is what you have shot. With a certain type of productions, yes, you get to probably do a patchwork. We call it patchwork, but more than most times that's not an option that you have. In advertising, you don't have that option. You've shot it and you've shot it, right? And you either get it right or you face the consequences, right? So you always get that thought, probably I could have shot more, probably I shot differently, or probably I should have also taken this shot. So for this reason, always shoot more. I mean, I would recommend that you shoot more and in all possible scenarios, so that you have enough meat for edit, because editing is not A plus B, but sometimes you need more. Some things doesn't work putting A together, A and B together, and you suddenly feel like something is missing. And that also sometimes you require something called as a cat in the window shot, right? And there's a conversation happening in the house, and sometimes you want to cut away because it doesn't feel natural, or it feels too draggy or whatever. You need additional footage, you need additional shots, and this is something that you'll have to envision earlier on, right? During pre-production, you need to think of all the possible shots that you can take, and the shot planning that you do is going to help you during shoot to have this. You've somehow managed to complete the film, and voila, that the big chunk of it is over, you think. Well, now comes the biggest of them all. You have completed the film, you have presented it, whether it is through whatever channel that is, whether it is putting it on a theatre, whether it is an OTT, whether it is a film which is just goes on YouTube. The most scariest or the most emotional part of the entire director's journey is to see how the audience reacts to your film. And I always say this, I think not 100% of the people would like your product, or they would, it's exactly like not everybody likes you, and it's okay, right? They don't like you, and not everybody has to like you, they don't have to love you, right? But there will be some set of people who likes you or love you or appreciate what you're done, right? And it's exactly like that. The product will also be treated in the same way. There will be a following, there will be people who would really like your product and become a fan of you. Some people just wouldn't like it at all, and somebody would think that it's absolute bullshit, or some people think that it's a masterpiece, and you could get mixed reactions, and you could even get trolled. While this is also the most difficult and the most vulnerable that you feel during the entire process, because your work is getting judged, you are stripped open in front of hundreds and thousands of millions of people, and them responding to your work may feel very vulnerable. It is also one of the most important part of a director's life, because you learn what went wrong, you learn what went right, you learn from people's reaction, whether they laughed at a joke or a scene that you did, whether they were getting emotional in a scene where it was meant to be emotional. What did you get right, what you didn't get right? And this is a very, very valuable learning, and unless you go through the entire process of making it and putting it out there, and guys, I mean, look at it this way, whether it is a painting or any piece of art, there is no comparison, right? What you create would be uniquely yours, and as a director especially, what you create would be uniquely be yours. There is no comparison. If it looks exactly like another, then of course it's not art, right? It's not yours anymore. So it is absolutely okay that people like it or dislike it. For me, if you really ask me, I would look at it from a perspective of, okay, if I have a certain following, it's just like, probably an example would be how social works, and right now I have, say, 1,000 subscribers. Probably if I put better content, I want to grow that 1,000 to probably a 10,000, right, or a million. So that's a progressive one. I think my next film should be better, and it should keep getting better, that I keep getting more and more people appreciating my work and start following my work, right? So that's how one should look at audience reception. But yeah, it is not easy. It's extremely difficult, and sometimes you get good reviews, sometimes you don't get good reviews, but keep going is the key. But yes, it's not as easy as it's said. Once you've done this and people appreciate it, and then you might land with the next project. Then comes a critical choice. You may be offered a feature length project or a big project, unlike the previous one, and which the bigger the project is, the bigger the challenges are, the bigger, the more meticulous planning it requires, the more detailing it requires. It expects you to step it up as a director, right? Your leadership skills has to be top of the line, and you have to also remember all the mistakes that you have done. And see, mistakes is your friend, guys, especially when it comes to filmmaking, because the more mistakes you have done in the earlier part of the journey helps you to become a way better director. And I think the learning doesn't end, and it's been whatever number of years that I've been doing, I've been learning every single time I've stepped on set, or every single time I've start working on a script. You keep learning, you keep getting better at it, and keep going. That's the only way to go about it. And then this big project comes with its own set of challenges, and then you start gearing up for it, and you keep. It's a critical choice, whether a lot of people at this juncture also kind of realize that probably filmmaking is not for them, and they stop it, go to another career. And I know a few of them, people that I've seen during film schools, and who have gone into different industries and said, okay, probably not my thing, because the amount of stress, the amount of things that goes into making one, and then also sometimes you don't get the result as you expect. You come into this industry, if it is about gratification of money and fame and all of that, and that's the only thing that's driving you, probably you're not fit to be in this particular industry. Why? Because the only kind of people who survive in this industry is for the pure love of creativity, or the pure love of wanting to expand yourself in this creative space of filmmaking, and the love for films, and just doing it should make you happy. Of course money is important, of course fame is important, of course everything attached to all the gratification that who doesn't like a slick car and a duplex flat and all of that. But ultimately what will keep you going is your love for the craft and love for doing it, right? And continue to do it no matter what challenges that may arise. I faced a lot of problems staying on filmmaking, because I'm a postgraduate in HR, and did I'm a master's in psychology, and Six Sigma black belt, and had a fantastic corporate job. When I moved into filmmaking, there was a time where I literally had nothing, not even a family to support me. I had literally had nothing, and I had to build it and stay on it and stay on its course, and go through the ups and downs to find my own footing, and to find my own space in advertising, or finding my to do my feature film, to doing my second feature, and to my what's planned next. And to get here, it has taken tremendous amount of persistence, and to give up all. And I've missed a lot of things because of these decisions as well. You have to sacrifice those things to be able to continue in this journey. So such sacrifices are part of a director's journey as well, right? So somehow you manage to do the film, and then of course if it is a feature film, some good parts that happens is the joy of sharing it to the world, and seeing that people like it, the premieres, the celebration for all the hard work and effort that you've put in over the years to complete that, and that's a tremendous feeling. So after doing all this, you have to keep going forward. You have to think of the next project as well. And there are a lot of one film wonders who come and they do a great job, and then they go missing, and or they could never come up with something as better. To keep going, keep thinking of newer projects and keep working on those projects and to make it happen. To keep that continuation going is extremely important, right? So that would be the next thing that you do. Every director's story is not about calling action and cut, right? It's their perspectives, their point of views, and most importantly, it's their leadership and the perspective that they have of the world and how they see the world is what the films are going to become. And for that reason, it is also important that every director has some sort of a social responsibility in terms of that they see the world in the right way, that they communicate something positive out in the world as well. I tried my best to have my scripts does not have anything which preaches anything negative to the world, because you are ultimately creating products which influences the entire world, especially the young minds. And so it is important that you have your compass aligned right, and it's always pointing to the right direction, so that whatever point of views that you bring into the film has something positive about it. But ultimately it's an entertainment industry, right? Which means that it shouldn't be preachy, it should be fun, it should be entertaining, it should be a blast for people to watch it and have fun. Extremely important as well. These are the untold truths about being a director. I've told you from a perspective of a journey of starting of a director's from starting from a first project and moving forward. So if you've liked this video, please don't forget to share this video, like this video, and please subscribe if you would like to see more of my content. The only purpose of me being on YouTube is to connect with the audience at a grassroots level, so that I can share my thoughts here as well. I really look forward to your support so that I can grow this channel and start creating more content, and that will be largely depending on your inputs, that I would continue to do these videos for you. To get a feedback, it's extremely important for me to get the feedback directly from people, and it helps me to grow as a filmmaker. So please don't forget to comment and share if you like the video, so that I keep doing such videos for you. And for all the aspiring filmmakers, keep creating, okay? Keep dreaming, don't give up. Keep trying, because this is not an easy industry to be in, but keep creating, and अपना time आएगा, सबका time आता है. It's all about time, so keep creating, and remember, life is too short for boring stories. I'll see you on the next one.